You know that moment when you're hauling your late grandma's old oak dresser up the porch steps. Sweat dripping. And the neighborhood busybody screeches to a halt in her white Range Rover. Phone already to her ear. Yelling that a suspicious man is looting the property? That was me, Chris Harlan, on day one in Oakwood Grove. And it was the exact second I decided this woman was going to learn what happens when you pick the quiet guy who actually reads the fine print. I'd just inherited my grandmother's 1970s split level in this picture-perfect Colorado cul-de-sac. 42. Divorced. Raising my 9-year-old daughter Emma alone. And finally catching a break with a paid-off house. The place needed work, peeling paint. Overgrown hedges, but it was ours. I figured the neighbors would wave. Maybe drop off a casserole. Instead I got Karen Langley. HOA president. Real estate shark. And self-appointed guardian of suburban perfection. She didn't even look at the deed I held out. I don't care what papers you forged, she snapped. Botox forehead somehow still wrinkling in disgust. This is a respectable community. We don't allow whatever this is. She waved at my moving truck like it was a mobile meth lab. Then she speed-dialed the non-emergency line while her husband Roger sat frozen in the passenger seat, staring at his lap like he'd seen this movie before. 2 deputies showed up. Took one look at the deed. My driver's license. And the moving boxes labeled Emma's toys, and apologized to me. Karen's parting shot as she stormed off. Enjoy it while it lasts. Mr. Harlan. Property values are very sensitive to the wrong element. Oh. Lady. You had no idea who you'd just declared war on. The next morning started peaceful enough. Emma was swinging on the old tire swing I'd rehung from the big maple. Giggling like the world was still simple. I was sipping coffee on the porch when Karen's Mercedes rolled up again. This time she carried a thick manila envelope like it was a court summons. Mr. Harlan, she said in that syrupy voice she used when neighbors were watching. I'm afraid we have some concerns about compliance. She handed me the list. 15 violations. The tire swing was an eyesore. My mulch was the wrong shade of brown. The American flag on the porch was flying on the incorrect side of the door. And my work van, used for photography gigs, was apparently a commercial vehicle that lowered the neighborhood tone. Total fines, $3,200. 30 days to fix or face liens. I smiled. Took the envelope. And said nothing. Inside, though, I was already cataloging. Because here's what Karen didn't know. I'm the guy who spent years documenting corporate contracts down to the comma. I noticed things. That afternoon I drove to the county clerk's office. Turns out Oakwood Grove's HOA hadn't filed the required annual paperwork or financial reports since 2020. Legally, it was a ghost. Every fine they'd issued for the last 4 years was worthless. I printed everything. Then went home and started digging through Grandma's old filing cabinets in the basement. Jackpot. 3 banker boxes of letters. Certified mail receipts. And notes in her shaky handwriting. Karen had been waging the same campaign against her for 8 years, bogus violations. Anonymous complaints to code enforcement. Even lowball offers to buy the house before it becomes a burden. Grandma had kept every scrap. She'd even noted the pattern. 3 other families on the street had sold cheap to Karen's real estate company after similar harassment. Then watched the properties flip for 30 to 40% profit. I sat on the basement floor surrounded by yellowed paper and felt that cold, clear anger settle in. This wasn't about mulch color. This was a shakedown operation wearing pastel cardigans and fake community spirit. I stayed quiet for weeks. Let Karen think she was winning. She posted in the neighborhood Facebook group about concerning new elements affecting our safety and values. She accidentally measured my grass at 2.7 inches instead of the sacred 2.5. She even sent a certified letter complaining that Emma's laughter was excessive noise during daylight hours. Meanwhile, I was building a file thicker than her Botox budget. Timestamps. Screenshots. Witness statements from the few neighbors brave enough to whisper the truth. Old Pete across the street. The retired surveyor. Slipped me a copy of the original subdivision plat one evening while walking his dog. "See that little strip of land?" he muttered, tapping the page. "Your grandma kept ownership of the 40-foot access lane that serves Karen's house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Easement's conditional, good neighbor clause. Harassment, intimidation, or bad faith actions. And you can revoke it. House becomes landlocked. Worthless overnight." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Grandma. You magnificent old fox." The escalation got ugly fast. Karen started calling my photography clients. Somehow she dug up names, claiming I ran an unlicensed event space and had questionable visitors. 3 weddings and a corporate headshot gig canceled within a week. My income took a hit right when Emma needed new braces. Then came the petty stuff. Someone accidentally dumped weed killer on my front flower beds at 3 a.m. My Wi-Fi router was mysteriously unplugged twice. The neighborhood page filled with vague posts about certain residents destroying curb appeal. I documented it all. Installed cameras. Kept smiling at HOA courtesy notices. The angrier she got, the calmer I became. Because cornered people get sloppy. The breaking point arrived in the form of an emergency HOA meeting at the community clubhouse. Karen stood at the front table in a crisp white blouse, looking every inch the concerned leader. "We must address the ongoing security and aesthetic threats," she announced, eyes lasering straight at me. "I've prepared a petition for a special assessment to fund private security and, if necessary, legal action against non-compliant owners." The room was packed, more people than I'd ever seen at these things. Some looked nervous. Others just tired. I stood up slowly. "Before we vote on spending everyone's money, maybe we should talk about whether this HOA even exists legally." Dead silence except for the buzz of the fluorescent lights. I passed out printouts of the state registry. No filings since 2020. That means every fine, every rule, every assessment you've collected is legally meaningless. You've been running a homeowners association that's just Karen's personal fan club. Murmurs rippled. Karen's face went from confident to confused to the first flicker of real panic. "This is a clerical oversight," she sputtered. "We've operated in good faith." "Good faith?" I cut in. Voice still calm. "Like the good faith where you harassed my grandmother for 8 years until she died? Or the 3 other families you pressured into selling cheap so your agency could flip them?" I laid out Grandma's documents on the table. Photos. Letters. Bank records showing the pattern. The room's temperature dropped 10 degrees. Then Roger, quiet. Henpecked Roger, stood up from the back row. His hands were shaking but his voice carried. "Karen honey, I can't do this anymore." He set a thumb drive on the table. "Everything's on here. The fake complaints. The shell companies. The second mortgage you took out to cover the investment properties that are underwater. I'm sorry. Everyone. I should have said something years ago." Karen's mask shattered. Her perfectly lined eyes went wide, mouth opening and closing like a fish yanked onto shore. "Roger. You traitor." "No," he said quietly. "You stopped being my wife the day you decided other people's homes were your ATM." I let the chaos swirl for a moment, then spoke again. "Here's the part you're really not going to like. Karen. I own the access strip to your house. The easement has a good neighbor clause. Given the documented pattern of harassment, false reports, property damage, defamation, I'm prepared to revoke it. 30-day notice. After that, your $1.2 million house has no legal road access. Good luck selling a landlocked property. You could hear a pin drop. Karen's face cycled through every shade of red, then drained to gray. For the first time she looked small. I gave her the exit ramp. Or we do this differently. You resign immediately. You help convert this to a voluntary neighborhood group with real elections and transparency. You drop every action against me and refund every illegal fee you can. In return, the easement stays. Your house keeps its value. And we all move on. Your choice. She stared at the table like it had personally betrayed her. The room waited. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, I accept the terms. The meeting ended in stunned murmurs and a few quiet claps. Roger walked out with her. But the way he carried himself looked lighter than it had in years. 6 months later the tire swing is still there. Emma's laughter rings across the cul-de-sac every afternoon and nobody files a noise complaint. We have a new voluntary association, Pete's the president. 1-year terms. No drama. Property values actually went up once people stopped living in fear. Karen and Roger sold their house and moved to a condo in Denver. Last I heard she's taking real estate ethics courses. Maybe she'll learn something. Me? I'm still here. Still taking photos. Still raising my daughter in the house her great-grandma fought to protect. And every time I drive past that access strip, I smile a little. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's patient, documented, and perfectly legal. So here's the question I always leave you with, when someone weaponizes rules, rumors, and authority to destroy your peace. Are you wrong for using the exact same system to defend yourself, or was the real crime letting the bully think the rules only applied to everyone else? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, tell it. You're not alone. And sometimes the quiet ones bite back hardest. See you in the next one.